welcome Chris to the show. Chris, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are definitely very, very excited. Before we get into the interview process whatsoever, tell people who you are, what you're all about, and where you're from.
Well, I'm originally from an hour north of Green Bay, a little town called Marinette. Grew up going to Packer games, driving that hour drive with my dad. Went to college at UW Green Bay, and after that, I started grading cards, sports cards for a living, for a place called Sports Collectors Digest, and that was in Iola, Wisconsin. And we kind of got in the game a little bit too late, and it didn't last very long. So then I started working for an auction house in Las Vegas, selling sports and entertainment memorabilia. Then I ended up working for the Upper Deck Card Company in North Las Vegas. I jumped around a lot of places, as you can see. I then went to, I was the assistant editor at Sports Collectors Digest for about 3 years, then worked for another auction house in Milwaukee. And now I work for the world's largest collectible auctioneer, Heritage Auctions. I've been there for 11 years, so I stopped jumping around finally.
That's awesome. So you are a huge sports memorabilia guy, right? Like I'm a sports memorabilia guy myself. Like as you can see in the background, I got a lot of autographed memorabilia behind me. I got my prized possession is the Barry Bonds ball that's sitting behind me.
Sure.
But what is your best piece of memorabilia that you have?
In my personal collection?
What's your prize? Yeah.
3 blocks down the road from my house at the Packer Hall of Fame, it's on loan. I have Ray Nitschke's jersey that he wore in the Ice Bowl. That's been on display for probably 8 years now. I have Reggie White's jersey that he wore in Super Bowl 31. That's probably my second best piece. And then my third best piece is tied. I have 2 Packer programs from 1921. I have the first ever Packer program. And then I also have the first program from the program from their first game in the NFL when they played the Minneapolis Marines. So that's kind of my top 4.
I know Wyatt is chomping at the bit, and he's drooling about all this Packer stuff we're talking about. So before I let him talk, because he's not going to let me talk after I get into this, because that's just how Wyatt is, especially when it comes to the Packers. He's never going to shut up for like the next 2 hours. So I got a question for you. This is my other favorite piece of memorabilia that I have. It's a full-sized chrome Redskins helmet. It's signed by all 3 Super Bowl MVPs, Mark Rippon, Doug Williams, and Joe Theismann. What would you say that something like that is worth? Because I can't find anything that is similar that has any of those 3 on it with any type of...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it exists because it's, something that sounds like it would be in demand with any Redskin collector who likes autographed helmets. Sometimes it's hard to put value on things like that. I could tell you it's worth $1,000. I could tell you it's worth $1,500. But the best way to find out what your item is worth is to put it in an auction and then let the natural auction process take place and the bidding war take place, and then you'll actually know what it's worth. I've seen things that we estimate at $1,000 and they sell at $5,000, and I've seen things that we estimate at $1,000 and they sell for $400. So, if there's no comps, you're saying that there's no comparable prices, then it's really just a guess.
Okay, all right. Well, Wyatt, here you go, buddy. It's your time to shine.
So, the first thing I want to talk about here, okay? I don't get this opportunity often, right? I am on a show with a Bears fan. That compares to a rough situation, right? So
I feel for you.
First off, I just want to admire this moment that there are 2 Packers fans on Man Hour. As of course, Combs is going to go to his old reliable there, his McGregor with the Packers shirt on. Gosh,
sorry, I had to do it.
McGregor, that picture is the representation of the Bears franchise all time. But anyways, back to the point here. Everybody likes to give me crap here for how much I mention the Packers. They have actually invented a drinking game now for the show. Every time that I say Packers, mention anything with the Packers, everybody drinks. So I figure me and you are going to have a
Be
pretty
drinking a
drunk
lot.
on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be drinking a lot tonight.
I've
So-
got it. Go ahead.
What are you guys drinking
So-
tonight? I can't see.
I got the Bacardi and Coke going.
All right. That's a Wisconsin drink,
So
kind of.
you said you worked at we'll
Time to
go
pour it out.
non-Packers first. You said you worked at Upper Deck. So as a kid, I collected a bunch of sports cards growing up and stuff. So that's really cool to me. What was that like working for Upper Deck?
It was a bittersweet job for me, actually. They hired me after I worked for the other auction house in Las Vegas. I was brought on to start their Upper Deck's auction house. And about a year into planning the auction house, Richard McWilliam, who was the owner at the time, he's now deceased, he pulled the plug on it after about a year of planning. So what was it like? It was honestly, it was a lot of sitting around and surfing the internet and getting paid for it, which sounds great to a lot of people, but when you've been doing it for a year, it's really not that fun. It was cool when I had a chance, my different chances to go into the warehouse and look at all the Upper Deck authenticated memorabilia signed pieces. And I just remember opening up huge boxes and there'd be literally dozens and dozens of Michael Jordan signed jerseys, or Peyton Manning, or Ken Griffey Jr., Tiger Woods. And that's the stuff that I grew up really salivating over because it was so expensive and I couldn't afford it a lot of times. But to see all of that in the warehouse was pretty breathtaking.
And then you currently work at Heritage Auctions, correct?
Yep.
And
yep,
Heritage
I'm the
Auctions-
football and basketball and hockey expert there.
Awesome. So Heritage is a big thing amongst YouTubers right now. A lot of YouTubers are doing unboxings and stuff from really expensive boxes from Heritage. My big question is, how do these auction houses get a hold of not just these sports memorabilia items, but the amount of sports memorabilia items that they get a hold of?
Well, we're the biggest in the world that sells collectibles. So we definitely have an advantage. You could take all of the web traffic of all of our competitors combined, and they wouldn't come close to the web traffic that HA.com receives. So that's a great way to generate consignments. But, we take in consignments from any way really possibly that you could think of, from the little old lady that found a box of cards in her attic to the Jerry Kramers of the world, who we took his collection in, Packer great Hall of Famer, to investors that, guys, some box breakers are investors and they do it for the money. And they'll give us a call and say, hey, I had that Pat Mahomes 1-of-1 card. Can I put it in your next auction? So really any way you could really think about it. And like I said, we are the biggest, and it's a lot different than when I used to work for some of the smaller auction houses. When we'd get excited over a $500 item, now literally we'll get a $100,000 item every day, and it's still cool, but it's not what it would have been if 10 years ago, if a $100,000 piece came through the door.
Absolutely. So, talking about working at all these cool places and stuff, like, is that kind of a cool thing? Like, as a kid, like, everybody always dreams of their dream job, of doing the thing that they love. I mean, isn't that cool that, you get to do what you love every day, involving sports cards and stuff like that, and sports memorabilia every day?
Yeah, I mean, it sure beats, working at a factory or, working at, a restaurant or something like that. But honestly, growing up, I didn't have a lot of direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to college and got the easiest degree I could find, which was communications, with a journalism emphasis. And I was just always a big sports nut and sports card and memorabilia nut. I never really, going into college and selling on eBay all the time, I never really put two and two together that I could make a career out of it. Just for whatever reason, it didn't dawn on me. And when I got out of college, I was kind of job searching and maybe thinking about writing for a newspaper or something that doesn't pay much. And the opportunity came up that they needed these card graders for this new grading company. So yeah, I mean, I'm blessed. I'm very grateful that I'm, working a career that is my hobby, and it's still my hobby. I still buy and sell, mostly memorabilia. I don't do much with cards. Unfortunately, I'd be real wealthy if I did. But the card market is ridiculous right now. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of cool people, not just the celebrities or the athletes, but a lot of cool people, just, everyday people that found a really neat item. I just was at a lady's house last week in Green Bay, and she was going through an old shelf. And there were some books in the shelf that one of her deceased relatives used to own, and a pair of full unused Ice Bowl tickets fell out of a book. I mean, those are the stories that are super cool and
crazy.
real rewarding in my career for sure.
So in what you were just saying, you mentioned the famous people you got to meet. Who are the most famous people you've got to meet, and what are some of the coolest experiences you've got to experience? Like just Ice Bowl. I can't even imagine Ice Bowl tickets rolling out of an old book.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah, probably my favorite athlete that I got a chance to work with was Jerry Kramer. I really like the older guys that played in the league. It's just they're just special people. They appreciate the history like I do, and they love to tell people about it. And to me, I had the chance to spend a couple days at his house in Boise, Idaho, going through his entire collection. And, him and I drank beer and smoked cigars on his deck. And he was just such a nice guy to me. And he was opening the Heineken bottles of beer with his Super Bowl II ring. Like he had it on his finger, and he cracked the beer open. And I said, Jerry, that's a $100,000 can or bottle opener you're using right there. And he looked at me and he said, I've been doing this for 50 years with this ring. If I'm not going to stop now, or something like that. And I just started laughing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was cool to work with him. But there's been a lot. I had a chance to work with the Nitschke family. A lot of the older Packer players' families I had a chance to work with. Just so many. I was on a conference call with Emmitt Smith once. I FaceTimed with Brett Favre when we were trying to get his collection. There's been so many, and honestly, they slip my mind right now. But like I said, just the best is when you meet, whether it's a celebrity or a regular person, when they love telling you about their item, and if they share the same interest and the same appreciation for history as I do, that's probably the most rewarding.
Now, we got the easy question, okay? Who's the best? We all know that there's those athletes out there that are not liked by very many people. And some of them even get held out of the Hall of Fame, guys like Barry Bonds, who, did not care for the media. I've actually met Barry a couple times. Barry's actually a nice guy. I've met him a couple times, but who is the worst athlete you've ever had to deal with?
Wow. I'm never going to talk bad about any of our consigners, but prior to my career with Heritage Auctions, I met Terrell Owens once in the back room at a card show. I knew the promoter, and he introduced me to him, and I just wanted a picture with him. I didn't want an autograph or anything, and he wasn't even, he wasn't mean to me, but the promoter just said, hey, this is Chris. He's a big fan, whatever. He just wants a picture with you. And Terrell Owens, he didn't really look at me. He literally just stood straight up from his chair, put his arm around me, took the picture, sat back down, didn't smile, didn't say a word. And honestly, that's probably that wasn't even that bad of an experience, but that was probably my worst experience with these guys. Marshall Faulk was not nice to me. I tried to interview him when I was assistant editor at Sports Collectors Digest, and that's when he was on the NFL Network as a analyst or whatever. And so I was in the media. He was, a small time media I was, but he was in the media, and I just wanted to get some quotes for Tough Stuff magazine, if you remember that magazine, and he just didn't want to do it. He's in the back room signing autographs. No one's around him. It wasn't a big deal. He was a jerk. For whatever reason, he didn't want to give me the time of day, and that wasn't cool. But other than that, most of these guys are pretty nice. If you don't get too googly-eyed over them and you treat them professionally, they treat you professionally. I mean, Brett Favre, he was very professional, very nice. I've been pretty fortunate.
I think the worst interaction I've ever had with a player was actually at a Cubs game, and the Giants came to town, and Marquise Grissom, and it wasn't even an interaction with me. This little kid was wearing a San Francisco Giants Marquise Grissom jersey. He gets off the bus to enter the stadium, and this little kid runs up to him to try and get his autograph, and he's on the phone, and he puts his hand over his phone, and he goes, "I'm on the phone, kid," and he walks away.
Yeah,
like, to me, that's just like I could imagine if it was me running up as a 40-year-old man saying, "Hey, Marky," you know what I mean? But this is maybe an 8 or 9-year-old kid, and it's just, stuff like that just rubs you the wrong way.
And it's not like it was Frank Thomas or something. It was Marquise Grissom. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So we've all seen the picture on your Facebook and on your social medias of you laying like this on top of all of those jerseys. The big question I had for you is, how do you have a number? Like, what is the number on jerseys you have? Because in that picture, there is easily 20, and I'm sure there's more that's not in the picture.
Yeah, those are game-worn jerseys, and a lot of really, really high-end ones. That was a collection I brought in for Heritage. It was a guy named, I think his name was John Kindler. He was a big collector in the 70s and 80s, and I brought his collection in from his son, who lived in Beverly Hills, and met him in Beverly Hills I think it was a Sunday morning. I flew out there, and I knew he had a lot of jerseys, but he started bringing out Rubbermaid containers one after another out of this minivan of jerseys, and it's like he's pulling out Lynn Swann and Ronnie Lott, Joe Montana, just one right after the other. Fran Tarkington, Rodgers. I mean, the list goes on and on. So that was a collection of, God, it was so long ago. It was about 7 years ago. It was maybe 200, 300 jerseys, something like that. But they were all like the cream of the crop.
Wow.
And we've had a couple collections like that. So as far as how many jerseys do I own, I only own, I kind of restricted to the Hall of Fame Packer guys now. I really weeded out some of the lower end ones. So my collection is only a few dozen jerseys, but I have Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor, Willie Wood, I have Favre's first jersey, Charles Woodson. I got a nice Devontae Adams, the real high end cream of the crop guys I kept. So it's not really about quantity for me at this point. It used to be, but definitely about the quality of them.
Well, you mentioned Devontae Adams' jersey. You said it was game worn.
Yeah, I wish I had it in front of me, and I could show you guys. It's the one that he was wearing when he got concussed by the other host there, his buddy Danny Trevathan, and the Bears.
Dirtiest hit. Oh my God!
Thursday night game, and it's crazy. They had to cut it off of him, so it's sliced from about here all the way down on both sides. And it's just the most unique piece. And he even signed it concussion game, and he dated it and he signed it, and it's got blood and it's got some dirt marks on it. So that's one of my best conversation pieces. And it's, and I got it before he became what he became last year, obviously. So it turned out to be a real significant item.
So We've got some people in the chat here that are coming up with some questions. Some of our listeners. You might know this guy here, Tori Anderson. He wants to know, is it true you once had bows shaved in the back of your head during middle school?
Yeah, I think that was middle school. It was probably 6th grade or 7th grade. I was a huge Bo Jackson fan. And I don't know why I decided to put it in the back of my head. I mean, I guess my dad probably wouldn't let me have a tattoo, so it's the next best thing. But people
probably good, right?
Yeah, you guys are probably a little bit younger than me, and if you don't realize, unless you're my age or Tori's age, that Bo Jackson was bigger than Michael Jordan in probably the real late 80s, early 90s. He was bigger than Michael Jordan. He was bigger than Tom Brady is now. It was just he changed the whole marketing aspect of sports items and with Nike.
And if he could have, if he could have had healthy hips, man, just imagine what he could have been in football and baseball. I truly believe he could have won an MVP in football and in baseball, and probably a ring in each sport too. He was that talented and that good.
Yeah, they say that the only guy they compare him to is Jim Thorpe. Is the best all around athlete, or maybe like a Deion Sanders. But Bo was special, and he had that about him that, like I said, for marketing, that Bo Knows campaign, it took on a life of its own. And I remember where I was when he hurt his hip against the Bengals, and I don't even remember what year it was, but I want to say it was '93. But I remember where I was when it happened. I was traumatized. I think my hair grew back quickly after that.
We're talking about great athletes here, and Tori has another question for you. We had this debate a couple times on this show. Who's the GOAT, LeBron or MJ?
Jordan, for sure.
Thank you, sir.
It's Jordan for a lot more reasons than just who the better player is. I mean, to me, you can't bounce around from team to team and be the best ever. Even though Tom Brady, I'm fine with that. That ran its course in New England, but LeBron left because he couldn't win in Cleveland. So how can you be the GOAT?
Yeah. No,
I
wholeheartedly.
He wasn't winning enough, and he left. He wanted to win a championship, and he didn't think he could do it in Cleveland, so he left.
Right.
They bought the team that he went to, and that's part of the reason why I've lost a little bit of interest in sports in general. Is these dream teams, even what Tom Brady did. I'll sound like the bitter Packer fan right now, but I mean, they pieced that together, and that's not a natural team. I miss the teams like the Bulls, and I wasn't a Bulls fan, but a team where the guy stays the majority of his career, and they build it from the draft, and maybe get a few key free agents like a Rodman or something like that. But that's not like getting a Dwayne Wade or a Chris Bosh or something like that.
So let me ask you this question then. You brought up, joining a super team or the Bucks, Tom Brady going over there. Why do you think that, and this is just being serious, this isn't me being a Bears fan and just trying to rub this in. Why do you think that the Packers have done such a bad job of building around, or maybe you don't even think they've done a bad job, about building around Aaron Rodgers, and even, I guess they didn't do as bad of a job around Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers really hasn't had the pieces around him to win, because I really think to me, Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback all time, easily. And for the Packers to not have the same dynasty that the Patriots had, as he's gone through his career, what do you think has been the problem there? Has it been the Packers not building enough around him, or is it just bad timing? What's going on over there in Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people say that, and would it have been nice if they would have went after like an Antonio Brown or something? Yeah, I guess in hindsight. But here's the thing: really picture this, and I've told a lot of people this. The Packers lost by 5 points in the NFC Championship game. They basically did that to themselves. If Tom Brady still throws those 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter, maybe Aaron Jones didn't have that fumble in the third, or maybe they didn't call that pass interference call late in the fourth quarter on Kevin King. Just say we win that game by 2 points. The whole dynamic of that conversation has changed. It becomes Aaron Rodgers is the best ever. Does Tom Brady still have it? He threw 3 picks in the fourth quarter. People overreact so much. It's hard to win in the NFL. The Packers have made it to all those NFC Championship games, and they lost that game in Seattle, and that whole dynamic of that conversation would change if Brandon Bostic didn't drop that onside kick. I mean, people go crazy. Did they do enough? You know what? They've done a darn good job, and we got a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. how many Super Bowls have the Bears got with Jay Cutler? They didn't even make it. And they didn't make it with Jay Cutler, and he was supposed to be a franchise quarterback.
See, I wasn't even coming at you with the Bears. Like, I was coming at you for real. Like, why? Because I really think that they should have won more with Aaron Rodgers, because they are a really good, solid team. It's not just this year, but it's all the. But since you came at me with the Bears, I will say Aaron Rodgers has been to as many Super Bowls as Rex Grossman. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
He has, but he won one.
Fair enough.
He's also been to the same as Dan Marino, but he's won one.
Right.
There's a lot of great quarterbacks. Fran Tarkington never won one. There's that's a bad example, but there's plenty of good quarterbacks, really good quarterbacks that have either not won one, not been to one, or only have won one.
And I say that all the time.
He's not done yet. He's not done yet.
Love Aaron Rodgers. Like, I really do. And I hate saying that as a Bears fan, but I love watching that guy play football. The guy is out there doing things that only he has done before. Like, throwing for 40-plus touchdowns and less than 5 interceptions. Only been done 3 times in the league, and all 3 times were Aaron Rodgers. Like, so the guy is a phenomenal quarterback. I do love watching a guy play. I wish he was a Bears quarterback. But, the Bears don't get good quarterbacks. We get guys like Mitch Trubisky and leave Deshaun Watson on the draft boards. So don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a Bear. I'm a Chicago fan. Like, I love the Bears. I love the Cubs and all that stuff. But I'm also I'm not one of those fans who looks at my team and is like, oh, yeah, they're the greatest. Your team sucks, blah, blah, blah. Do I like to have fun and poke fun at Wyatt and all that? But I'm a very honest fan. And I'm a very honest fan, though. When the Bears suck, I tell you the Bears suck. And the Bears are going to suck for the next 5 to 6 years. I mean, until they get rid of Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, the Bears organization, and even Virginia McCaskey, Bears organization is going to be in disarray for a long time. But no, I do love the Packers. Like, I love what the Packers do. I love what the Packers stand for in the NFL. But I just feel like they should have won more with Aaron Rodgers. I think that Mike McCarthy, was really a bad coach. I mean, with his clock management,
he won a Super Bowl. He might have run his course, but you're not a bad
but they
coach.
should have won more, though, right? Like, I mean,
that's
you don't
your
think
opinion.
They should have won
like
more?
I said, they should have won. They should have beat the Buccaneers, and if they would have beat the Buccaneers, I think they would have won the Super Bowl with a banged up Chiefs team. So. It's hard to win in the NFL. I'm telling you, it's hard. It's a game of inches, and it's a game of 1 or 2 plays. And, I get what you're saying, and I don't 100% disagree with it. I don't really disagree with it at all. Should they get more? I hope they get J.J. Watt. And then, people can stop saying they didn't get Aaron Rodgers, another, key player, a superstar. And I think we have a good chance of getting J.J. Watt. But, there's no guarantee that we win the Super Bowl with J.J. Watt. And, injuries happen. You got to get lucky, too.
There are 2 reasons I don't want to see J.J. Watt with the Packers. Is 1, I'm a Bears fan, and I don't want to see them be better than what they are. And 2, like, Wyatt will be sitting here in his underwear with a J.J. Watt painted on his chest until the football season starts. So,
I would.
God, I hope J.J. Watt does not go to the. You just say you will, too.
So.
Yeah. I love JJ Watt. He's a great guy.
Oh, I love JJ. But Chris, so I did some research on you, and I also talked to Tori a lot about you. And something on research that I found out was you had a 2-month investigation on a Brett Favre jersey. What was the investigation? What was that like? And just what was the conclusion? Just run us through all that.
Yeah, real quickly. So it's when I was writing and editing for Sports Culture Digest, SED, and there was a call one day that a guy called me. He was a collector named Steve Tavis, and real nice older gentleman who spent, I believe, at the time, I think he spent $3,000 or $6,000 from a pretty reputable source selling a Brett Favre game-worn jersey that came with a picture of Brett Favre holding up the jersey, and it was signed game used. It was signed what date he used the jersey, and I think he sent me pictures of it, and just for whatever reason, and I did a little research and proved that it wasn't real. It wasn't from that game. the NFL shield on the V-neck wasn't in the right place. I mean, it was really easy with photos. You can see where the patches match up, and if they don't match up, it's not real. And then I got another call from a guy who just tipped me off that there's a lot of bad stuff going on with these Brett Favre jerseys that are coming from Brett Favre's camp, basically. I'm not saying Brett Favre did it on purpose. I'm saying Brett Favre signed jerseys as game used that weren't game used, and that was what the story was about. It was crazy. So it ended up Brett Favre's pilot was the one that was I don't know if you want to call him distributing them, but he was kind of Brett's marketing guy, and a lot of them were filtered through him. And there was it was a crazy thing. I was supposed to interview David Thomason one day, and in downtown Green Bay, I had to drive an hour to get there. And I got to this office in downtown Green Bay, and there was a secretary at the desk, and I said, she said, "Are you for David?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Hold on a second." And I walk into this big boardroom, and there's about 5 private investigators in there that David hired. And they were trying to basically, it seemed to be discredit me and my story that I was working on. And David never was even in the building. So it was a crazy, crazy investigative report. But, they tried to intimidate me, I felt. And for whatever reason, I still don't know who they came from. I have my ideas, but I was never able to prove who was behind that, who was doing it on purpose. You can read between the lines and probably figure it out if you read the story, but the Packers gave a quote. It was crazy, but there was we found maybe 20 that were bad, and I have a hunch there's quite a few more.
Wow.
And it was probably the biggest story in the hobby's history, and I'm not tooting my own horn, it's just a fact, that opened people's eyes up to, hey, just because an athlete signed this game used, it doesn't necessarily make a game used.
Yeah.
And, I have a feeling Brett Favre was, they gave him some jerseys, he said, just sign this game used, you wore it in the game. And he just said, okay, and, give me $100 or whatever. Like, I don't think he was mischievously signing these things saying I want to screw this person over.
Yeah, because that significantly adds to value, doesn't it? If it's game worn, I mean that's a significant.
That's the whole value. But Brett Favre autograph's barely worth anything. He signed more than anybody. It's maybe worth $100, but a Brett Favre game worn jersey is worth up to $10,000 or more now. So yeah, it was a big deal, and the private investigators they basically they read my story. They came to Krause Publications. We invited them there. They just wanted to read the story. They finally accepted what was going on, and then they just gave us a quote basically saying, if you have any of these suspected fake jerseys, to call us, and we will take care of it. And I think they did, and then that was it. And a lot of people wanted me to write a follow-up story, but there really wasn't one. I don't have the lawyer power to go after anybody for a reason. What would be the reason for me? Yeah, it would be great to do another follow-up story on something like that, but really it would have just been a nightmare for me.
So my final question for you here. So you've got all this great Packers memorabilia, even some of it showcasing the Packers Hall of Fame. But I wanted to show you some of mine here that maybe we could make some trades on. So the first one is this Packers sombrero cheesehead that I got from Lambeau Field.
I could use that.
So
is that a game-worn cheesehead?
No, it's not. Well, I wore it during a game. If that makes it exact game, I mean, so the second one, this wasn't at Lambeau, but still, it's a piggy bank. That's a Packers piggy bank. It's a little pig that's got snow all over him. So we got that one, and then the best one. Here's the best one.
Your grandmother's Christmas presents.
So here's the best one. Okay, it is an old Packers popcorn holder. It has the entire 2014 season lineup of games on it. So I'm wondering if we could make some trades for some of your Packers Hall of Fame gear. Because, I mean, this stuff is it's worth a couple thousand pennies at least. So I'm sure there's something there.
Yeah, when people come to me with things like that, they always say, what's it worth? I say, that's sentimental value. That's a nice way of saying it's not worth anything.
All righty, Chris.
awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for that great story about the about your jerseys and your history and your journey from the bottom to the top. Right. I mean, it's definitely been a wild ride just listening to it. Like I couldn't imagine being on your shoes. So, do you want to send us off anyway? Any closing thoughts? A go Pack go or?
I got a Ditka
always
jersey
say
if
that,
you
but
want to trade
if
for
anybody-
a Packers.
If anybody has anything that they want me to look at, they can shoot me an email. I'm always looking for really rare, significant items, whether it be for the auction house or if it's a Packer item for my collection. And they can get a hold of me at Chris, CHRIS, N as in Nancy, at HA.com.
There we go. All right, Chris, thank you for joining us, and we'll definitely love to have you on sometime again.
Go
Thank you,
Pack,
Chris.
go.
All right,
Thank
buddy.
you, Chris.